Ladies and gentlemen, we are live coming to you from New York. And oh my goodness, I got greatness in the building. Michael Robinson. Wow, I've heard so many amazing things about you, and to have your legacy here in this room, man, I can't tell you how stoked I am. So first and foremost, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. Happy to share, what little I know. And I'm just really a regular person trying to figure it out like everyone else. And because I have the time, I can actually do the research. I guess the intellectual curiosity allows me to find new opportunities.
And that's exactly why you're here, because you are such a humble man, and that's such a humble beginning. Because as I know you, Mike, you are not only involved heavily in the crypto space, the AI space, but you have been doing this for a very long time. As some would say, a very, very, very great amount of time, and they would consider you an expert. Not only are you not a founder, you are an sorry, what's your
in which one? Because
I'm thinking for OORT, and then you have an okay. AI, and now you have VCs. You do so much.
I've got a serial entrepreneur background, and I can lead into like how that even took place, because I have an unconventional background. Instead of doing a master's, I actually did an apprenticeship, and my mentor at the time that became my business partner, old Washingtonian, his family's been in Georgetown, living in Georgetown since 1836, right?
Wow.
And great-grandfather built the walls around Georgetown University, 55 of the embassies throughout DC, and he's named after his cousin, Walter Reed. So when I was 28, Walter and I connected, and that's another story that we can dive into, because I don't want to, throw us off topic. But at the time when I met him, all my friends were going back to get their masters, right? And I asked Walter, as a mentor, should I go back to school and do a master's? He said, Mike, why would you do that? I mean, they're only going to dumb you down, right? The institutions at that time, which is relevant today. Anyways, continuing, he said, we should do an apprenticeship. And in this apprenticeship, he was teaching me how to create out of thin air. We launched several projects. At maturity, we're managing several billions of dollars of projects that we created out of thin air.
Wow.
And, I used to be overwhelmed by all that was going on. And he would say, Mike, why are you complaining? Can't you walk and chew gum? And I'd say, fuck. Can't you walk and chew gum?
Yeah.
At that time, we had probably like 11 projects. Just he and me, the two of us managing. So we fast forward to today. Walter is now gone. Bless his soul. Rest in peace.
Rest in
Great
peace,
man.
Walter. Absolutely.
He set the foundation for me to be a part of many projects. And currently, I've been able to co-found a VC, obviously, dedicated Web3 VC. Before that, we had this crypto event company called the DEX. Me nerding out, I saw at the time a lot of crypto was becoming centralized exchanges, but then there was this new event that took place called decentralized exchanges, DEXs, Ether Delta, Fork Delta, and I was like, okay, this is where we need to point next. I came up with the concept of the DEX with a group of partners that I met in New York when I moved here, and we would host events just having the decentralized exchange in conversation, but it was still a play on decentralized exchanges.
Right.
And that got us into the room with some of the leaders in the crypto space. That's where I initially brought Reggie Middleton, not me, I should say, but I've always been studying Reggie Middleton. So I poached for him to our team to have him come and speak. Jeffrey Wernick as well. They would come to our events and speak to our community members. But that led us into an acquisition at a co-working space that then spiraled into an accelerator, then a VC. That VC invested in OORT, and that's how I became the foundation chairman for OORT. When Dr. Lee and Dr. Yang, the founders of OORT, asked me to join, and I happily accepted. Back then, I would always be in the background. I preferred to be a background guy. So when they asked me this, it was the first time I actually became front-facing, really.
When you say back then, how far back are we talking? Like when? Because you're talking. You dropped Reggie Middleton, which, if I'm not mistaken, would someone consider him maybe the godfather of decentralized
finance?
Finance, yeah.
Reggie has secured several patents, like pivotal patents in the blockchain.
Right, and he still has those, and I believe he had some legal contending.
Legal challenges that took place.
Right.
So Reggie was probably one of the first in the crypto space that came with a traditional, like, highbrow financial background and saw a lot of opportunities. And that's how he was able to.
Would you call him like a Wall Street guy? Like he came Wall Street more financing? Like what do you?
I don't know what you exactly call that, but I saw like it was, I think, CNBC. He was on several shows, like commercial television, RT as well. But I can't remember the show he was on where he made bets. Like there was a panel of finance leading or experts. They all made bets on where the industry was headed or collapses that were going to take place. And Reggie consistently won. You know, his bets were always on the money. So clearly the man has a gift, right? And I definitely respect that. I would say he's strong in his vertical and knowledge of finance, and bringing that into the crypto space made a huge difference. His Veritasium project, I remember the ICO, I think it went live maybe 2017, $1 for one coin for each Veritasium. And at its height, each Veritasium shot to like, I think $350, right? He was a top 10 contender in the crypto space when everyone was using, I think back then it was Coin Market Cap that we were using, right? When like what BitConnect and, you know, all those other projects were also contenders on the data for like the daily volume and like how well projects were doing. His was top 10. So it was pretty sad to see the challenges that he went through. I still maintain contact with him. I think he's very sharp, and I think things are probably going to look up for him with the patents that he's secured.
Absolutely. So from what it sounds like, you've been in crypto for, if you had to give some kind of
10 years, I would say, a decade now.
That's a long time in crypto.
Yeah,
that's a great. I want
from the research side. I started out as a researcher, you know, macro trends forecaster, because at that time Walter and I were Walter was teaching me macro trends forecasting, and it was the ability to identify opportunities before they go mainstream. I was able to do so based on a lot of the research that he shared with me and how to identify these, you know, opportunities. Basically, my thesis back then, I should say our thesis back then, was if central banks continue to print money, then Bitcoin was going to be an asset, a valuable asset.
So let's talk about that and pretend I'm a novice. Obviously, Mike, this is not financial advice, and for many of our listeners who maybe have some kind of understanding of what crypto is as it becomes more mainstream, let's actually backtrack and let's start from the very beginning. So you've been in this industry for over a decade, and a lot of maybe listeners would say that they were introduced to crypto maybe in 2017 when a Bitcoin surged to 17,000-ish
Right.
before crashing, and then the whole world said crypto is going to burn down. And we're not even talking about today. I'm pretty sure if we're looking at 104,000 Bitcoin,
109. We went to 109.
I stand corrected. 109, and we can laugh at that. But then they would say you guys are out of your mind. You guys are lost your screw. So let's backtrack. And for anybody who doesn't know, and let's from a novice standpoint, let's start with what is Bitcoin? What is it?
That's a very good question because I think first off, it's only 16 years old. It was born 2009, antithesis to central banking, and also the 2008, 2007 crash that took place. So what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is a scarce digital asset, new asset class that can be custodied by individuals in a manner that maintains your privacy, financial privacy. But once you participate in the open market on chain, I would say, you would be synonymous, essentially. So Bitcoin is now been pushed to digital gold. Before that, it was the people's money. There are 100 million Satoshis that make up one Bitcoin, which is an ode to Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, who no one knows.
Okay.
Who he is.
Okay. So do you know Satoshi Nakamoto? Satoshi Nakamoto? I hear rumors about him. I hear rumors about this person or persons that may have started Bitcoin and no one knows who they are. A Bitcoin is $109,000. I'm sorry. 109,000 at the top. And this guy maybe has 1 million of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
No one knows him or her or them.
No one knows.
It's not weird to you?
I think that is a bit of a concern there. However, it was clear that we're being pushed into a digital currency. He created this concept that was peer-to-peer money for the people. And the smallest denomination that I was sharing earlier, 100 million Satoshis make one Bitcoin, similar to like 100 pennies, making $1. He envisioned this being proliferated amongst the people as like everyday use case, right? But now it's been it's been pushed by financial experts, Wall Street basically, as digital gold, and it's really scarce. So that, I think, if he's still alive, I'm not sure. If he's dead, he'd be rolling over in his grave, I'm sure. But no one knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. There are conjectures out there. It might be Craig Wright. If you talk to the BSV, the Bitcoin Satoshi Vision community, it could be Hal Finney. It could be CIA. It could be someone's dog or some space aliens, right? So it's really interesting, this new concept. I can only imagine, because it's disrupted the financial markets tremendously. This is like the first revolution in traditional finance for maybe some centuries now. And if governments were able to find out who that person was, I'm pretty sure they would be in a lot of trouble, right? So probably best that nobody even knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is.
Yeah, the mystery remains. It continues to be a mystery.
Yeah, and if he moves anything from that Bitcoin wallet, then this experiment's done.
Done.
Right?
Yeah, it's okay. So he's just sitting on billions. Would it be billions?
Richest person on earth.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Well, one of the.
There is a bunch of
namers,
of course.
Sure.
So some are name on paper, others not so much.
Right.
Okay, so we started with Bitcoin, and now help me understand blockchain, because Bitcoin was built on as a blockchain, the very first blockchain, if I'm not mistaken, as a layer 1. But then something happened. Something happened where there's now layer 2s, and now something else is catching fire, and things are evolving from Bitcoin.
Sure.
So if Bitcoin's gold, but then I hear of Ethereum, and then I hear these other layer 1s that are coming up. Again, not financial advice. Solana, XRP.
Sure.
Yeah, all these different blockchains, if you will, that have different functionalities. It's becoming a lot. So just help me understand, what is this progression? Why is it progressing? Or what happened?
That's an interesting question. Let me see if I can tackle this like bit by bit. But each blockchain has its own native token. You need that, or in this case, it will be called a coin, native coin, to participate in that ecosystem. And each chain has its own technology. For instance, Bitcoin is an intermediate. It disintermediated the banks. There's no longer a need for me to go to my local bank to send money to you, or to Western Union so I can send money to you. I'm Jamaican. So if my family members had Bitcoin wallets, I can just send them Bitcoin like right now. They'd receive it within like 10 minutes or less, right? Depending on the amount that I send and the payment that I give to the miners. So Bitcoin has made sending money efficient. You can't stop it once it's been sent. And that's something that's incredible. It has been a boon to financial utility for the average person. And that's why Bitcoin is thriving. But then you also have debatable chains that have rolled out, but we'll stick to the ones that are well known. But going back to what you were saying before I even jump into that, what is the blockchain? The blockchain is just data that is held in a block, and it's done in a consecutive manner, and it's transparent, right? So kind of like an ontological manner, I would say. So the best example I could give you is if we had our phones connected to Running Bear internet, right? We can see, if we all downloaded the Running Bear app, we can see his transactions like tea's been made, who's drank what, who's eating what, right? And that would all be on the Running Bear blockchain, essentially. So it's just a way for data to be time-stamped in a chain.
And it can't be
tampered
tamper-proof. So it's not. What's the word? It's not like encrypted, but it's
immutable. It's immutable.
Yeah. So a block is created, and that block is essentially a transaction of data that cannot be manipulated at all.
You can't manipulate it.
And that essentially is the blockchain.
Yes.
Okay.
But then it's so basically for Bitcoin, every 10 minutes a new block is created, which is basically filled with all these financial transactions. Who sent money to whom? though it's all synonymous, you can actually tie it back to someone's wallet address, right? But because of the opacity and the financial meltdown that took place in 2007, 2008, which was really opaque, transparency was necessary for finance in an ethical manner. And that's basically what Bitcoin solved. So you look at Bitcoin as the benchmark cryptocurrency. It's not even a cryptocurrency. I would just call it, the benchmark currency, because that's essentially what it's supposed to be. But now these other chains that have rolled out, they have their own technology as well. You mentioned XRP. XRP would be bank-to-bank, essential wires, basically, right? So it's a bank-to-bank service. The Ethereum is programmable money, right? Ethereum changed a lot of this space. I mean, that technology came out of nowhere, and it really upgraded the space as far as innovation that's taken place. In the past, all you could do was Bitcoin, send money back and forth, but now with Ethereum, you were able to create ICOs, the initial coin offerings in 2017, right? So people would be able to do essential IPOs, right, on chain to their community, get funded so they can launch a project, and the capital be in your pockets, and you would, be able to hopefully fulfill the promises you made to your community members that gave you the money, right?
Right. And weren't a lot of people getting, at least that kind of evolved into a lot of crypto companies getting sued for not having they're not security.
They became securities. A lot of them. The SEC was a bit of very hawkish then, and rightfully so, right? Because there were a lot of, whenever you see, a lot of affluence or money being made, scammers come out of the woodworks, right? And there were outright scams that were taking place. But then you also had people around the world that were from emerging markets that didn't really have much, that were becoming millionaires overnight because they invested in the right ICO, right? And I mean, it was a double-edged sword, but hopefully, as adults, even though kids were able to access this, you're informed, you did your own research, right, before you actually deployed. So that, I thought, was really innovative. I remember when that first went live, the ICOs, I couldn't believe it. How did we even get here? I was watching just everything take off, and I thought it was just brilliant. For the first time in history, you could fund a project from community members around the world, and you automatically have a community as well because they're vested in your project, right? So whatever product you build for them, they'll come if it's value add. And that was a game changer for sure. Ethereum did that. Now Ethereum's also scaled into DeFi products, right? So bringing traditional finance on chain. DeFi stands for decentralized finance. And we're watching as decentralized finance become more mature since its wave, which was only recent, during the COVID lockdown, 2021 or 2022, I can't remember. But that's now scaling out. NFTs, it sounds like an STD, but it's real, you know?
It does. That's a really
that's all Ethereum.
Yeah. So Ethereum allows for smart contracts to be created on a blockchain, which allows you to essentially, on this blockchain, you could attach kind of like a service company, if you will. I don't know, maybe it's not a service company, but a service provided to that blockchain. You could build on top of it through a different technology framework.
Well, the smart contract is not that smart, but and that's crazy where we are with technology. It's essentially an agreement, right? An input happens and an output is for sure going to take place. So the question is, as we continue to scale this economy on chain, does that mean law become partially obsolete, right? Because you can basically bake a lot of law into the code for smart contracts. But it was really the advent of what it was a token standard called ERC20 that really allowed the proliferation of like on-chain activity for Ethereum. Yeah, that was the game changer. We're still discovering what all can be done with Ethereum, and we've seen a lot of activity take place on Ethereum, meaning that it's proven its potential. Ethereum solved the transactions per second, which Bitcoin could only handle 7 transactions per second, right? Ethereum handled 15 transactions per second. But then with like the ERC20 token standard, then came the ICOs and like a lot of on-chain activity, which congested each block and caused fees,
very expensive fees,
to become expensive.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
I remember like during DeFi summer, like I was just telling a family member, like one of my fees was like $1,000, and I was paying, what I was trying to send was less than $1,000. So that was why you needed an L2, right? You started seeing the need for layer 2s, which would be built on top of the Ethereum or complement Ethereum's chain as like a superhighway for less fees, right? Significantly less fees. And that would help the flow of activity. But there became challenges there. I think one of the smart, things that I've seen was vampire attacks by like these L2 companies that basically poached the Ethereum community, brought them over to their chain, and then spun out a layer 1.
Wait. Sorry, what's a vampire?
A vampire attack is like when you take, you roll out this like this value add to a project that already has like a very strong community. In the tech space, it's all about community. That's what makes your product or your project valuable. You take a look at Facebook, how many people are using Facebook, Instagram, that's what really creates the value. So you vampire attack, meaning like you act as if you're adding value. Sometimes you really are, but then your project or product becomes so value add that now the community members from that other project stay on your chain, right? Or stay using your product, your project. And that's a successful vampire attack.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you see that often in the space. One I think that executed well was Polygon. Polygon started out as a layer 2 on ETH, and then now it's its own chain, right? So
wow,
yeah,
wow, a lot of moving parts, but it's like
Jeez.
you can have a company that can do a successful vampire attack, and then there's some companies that may be more what's the word I'm looking for? More, I don't know, skeevious, more up to the spamming side.
Oh yeah, that happens.
And FTX. I'll throw that out there because that's a public one because it just happens to be public. But there's a lot more FTXs that never made the news.
Yeah.
And what is the crypto space like when it comes to spamming, and how do you stay clear from and how do you know who?
That's a good question. So I'll approach this from like the VC side, the venture capital side. My concern with FTX, and I had thank God no exposure to FTX, but I know quite a few people that did, and especially if you go to Hong Kong, wow, it's like most of the people that I know there got affected because it's a small circle, and that was where Sam Bankman-Fried was really based. and did a lot of fundraising. But I would always suggest due diligence, proper due diligence, its most simplest form, seeing if the team is real, meeting the people that are fundraising or represent the team, get a feel for the person in person, if you ever get that opportunity. But I typically avoid noise. If it's too noisy, it might be already too mature as far as the opportunity. But if it sounds too good to be true, it most likely is, right? That's a bit cliche, but it's real, especially when you're dealing with finance. I think in finance, the most sophisticated approach to this is just proper research, right? Continuous research until you feel like 100%. That's when you start investing. And your goal is to try to be a contrarian. If everyone likes it, what is it that they're missing that, could be holes in this project? And you're trying to identify these holes. And then you could take a look at like their community members, right? Their community members are always vocal, especially if they love your project and they're invested in it. They're always going to let you know where the team is failing, right?
That's true.
They're very vocal about it. So
yes.
take a look at the social media, X, Discord, Telegram channels. And that's where you start. That's where I would start my research. Typically, it's like seeing where the community members are like, angry, and that gave me a lot of opportunity.
Streets, yeah.
Right, exactly. In the case of Sam Bankman-Fried, he popped up out of nowhere, and I would always complain to my friends, like, I've been in the space for a while. That's what I used to say. And this guy just came out of nowhere, and everybody's talking about him. So it was kind of like AstroTurf, right? Where he was being promoted. Why was he being promoted was the question that I was asking myself. So, I don't know him personally. I know friends that do. Me, I prefer to like be in my own world. I don't want to just only talk crypto with like, my crypto friends. I typically talk life things.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where you really start aligning with like values and morals. And as an investor, that allows you to see a little bit more clearer,
Yes.
right? Who you're going to invest in. But so we see a lot of clutter, scams taking place because once again, it's where all the opportunity is, right? Whenever there's new opportunity, money sloshing around, you're going to see people trying to take advantage of that. And you keep that in mind, right? Before you start deploying. It's there's so much that I could go down a rabbit hole with that.
No. That's extremely helpful. For the tool, what tools would you give to someone looking to make their very first crypto investment? Again, not financial advice at all.
Yeah.
But if someone wants to get started and they're checking communities, what other tools can they have? Like, is there a certain
Tools?
Yeah. Well, is there a certain maybe a website? Are we going to LinkedIn? Are we utilizing Google searches and now Chat GPT to do searches? Like, is it just, or is this research? Are we looking at like numbers? Are we looking at revenue? Like,
Well, there's not that much revenue being created yet, or generated, I should say, in the space. The space is very new. And what I would be looking out for as far as research, I think your first approach should be understanding Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is necessary. Bitcoin being the benchmark of all crypto, right? That's going to help you with the fundamentals of why. You're basically asking yourself the entire time, why should I be investing in this project, right? If there is no solution that the project provides, then why would you invest, right? So what is the solution? The founders what's their background, right? Always take a contrarian approach. If you're looking at someone that's never been in the tech space, but they're a founder for this project, why, right? What is their motivation behind launching this coin? And the whole coin thing, the coin concept, man, I think what's cool about it is from the ICO phase, you're able to get your own community, and now it's an economy, right, within that community. But some of these founders, they take advantage of that, and this is how they become a millionaire really quickly.
Multimillionaires overnight, yeah.
Which is very challenging for the space, right? Because you also have people that are using this technology to give value to people. And that's the point of this. You're actually solving some kind of challenge, typically that traditional tech hasn't quite figured out yet. And you have this new technology that can help you facilitate that. So keeping these things in mind, you start realizing that there's a lot of money sloshing around. There's greed, which is, normal. You could use it for good or you could use it for bad. And tons of opportunists, right? Because this is the opportunity. You have to be careful. So I would always recommend starting with a foundation. Your foundation is knowing Bitcoin, understanding what the solution of Bitcoin is, right? Once you start understanding that, it's going to really blow your mind. I think that's where you have your red pill, blue pill moment. Once you've been red pilled, or in this case, orange pilled, then you can start moving slowly along to these other chains, because each chain is supposed to provide their own technology. In this case, Solana, we were talking about memes earlier. Solana has proven that it is the place to go for DePIN, which is decentralized physical infrastructure networks. Basically, like, this is DePIN, like my cell phone being attached to Instagram. Like, I can upload data, right? That's a decentralized physical infrastructure network. But in this case, it's tied to a chain. So Solana has proven DePIN and also memes or mimetic coins, because it handles, I think, 3,000 transactions per second.
Damn.
Yeah, right? Compared to what we're just talking about, Bitcoin 7 and then 15, right?
Yep.
So that's the progress that's being made, man. Like,
wow.
This is like... it's one of the most incredible experiences, just being involved in this and to see how it matured. I remember back in the days when I used to tell all my friends about this Bitcoin stuff. Bitcoin was $200. They thought I was crazy. They thought I was crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
When was this? So the $200.
2015, 2016. Yeah.
Wow.
Like late 2015. So I started out on the research side. Things were going very well for me. I was working this dead-end job at the time, and me and Walter had just started this apprenticeship, but we scaled, our, it was called at the time Reed Robinson, Walter Reed, Michael Robinson, Asset Strategies, and we were doing phenomenal. So I ended up doing this walk away from the... I was a leasing consultant, the highest paid leasing consultant for this firm. Even though I went to Virginia Tech for property management, they wanted me to be this assistant manager or manager, and I never wanted to do it because it was just more obligations, and I didn't think it was worth the pay. So I sat at that position for some years, and things worked out for me and Walter. I did this walk away in 2015. That was when I retired from that job. And he and I moved back to Jamaica, where I'm from. And we would always wake up in the morning. We had a chef. We're living on this spot called Darlingford Farms, which is where like racehorses went to retire. We had our own driver and everything. Man, we were living high on the hog. So we'd always have these debates, right? And central banking came in, and that was where he was like, Mike, why don't you do a dissertation on Bitcoin? And I said, okay, I will. And I did the deep dive and did the presentation. He was like, fuck it, let's get in now. Yeah. So sharing, that experience with all my friends, and my friends know me as someone that's like wholehearted about whatever I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to do it, I always get it done, right? I always do whatever it is that I say I'm going to do. And at the time, I had the backstory is it took me like 7 years to graduate college, right? Because all I did was party back then. Like I had a full ride to Virginia Tech and I lost it second semester freshman year.
It must have been a good party.
It was epic, man. It was freaking epic.
It sounds like a good. College is usually like that because it's such a but that's its own environment. I mean, so
imagine now as my friends, they saw that as my past, right? Why are they gonna believe Mike talking about this new Bitcoin thing, right? Like, why should I invest money in Bitcoin?
And I bet you they think of you. I bet you they think of your face every time they hear Bitcoin now.
Gosh.
Moving forward,
bro, I'll tell you a story. One of my very close friends, we did middle and high school together, and then we roomed together at Virginia Tech. This is like my bestie, man. I won't say his name. Everyone that knows us know who I'm talking about. So I would always tell him about Bitcoin. He was the only one, him and my sister were the only ones that would listen, right? And another friend. So they got involved very early. For him, it was, Bitcoin was trading, I would say around like 2,500. And I told him, look, man, now is the time to get involved in Bitcoin. This was like 2017, summer of 2017. I said, if you don't get involved now, you're going to miss out on a massive opportunity. So he had a nice bag that was sitting on the sideline collecting just dust, right, in some bank account. And he was like, Mike, are you sure? I said, bro, you're going to regret not buying now. And your question's going to be, I wish I had bought more if you buy now. That would be your only regret, not buying more at this price. He's like, it's so expensive. I said, no, we're going higher. So he converts what he has into Bitcoin. End of 2017, we hit 17K. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, bro, why don't you, take out what you started with and let the rest rip. Mm. He's like, but Mike, where do you think we're going to go next? I said, we're going to 100K. That was 2017, right? I remember it might have been like the start of the year, Bitcoin like dives. Mm-hmm. 3,500 was the low. Mm-hmm. He was still up, but he was on me like, yo, I thought you said we're going to 100K. I said, man, just watch, just hold. Hodl, back then you'd say hodl,
right? Get it? Yes.
So, anyways, things picked back up, and finally, just recently, we hit 100K. So to start the year off this year, I met up with that friend and congratulated him because there he is. That friend, my best friend, one of my best friends, is now doing extremely well with his Bitcoin holdings. Right? That was a stressful time.
I would assume for a lot of uncertainty, and so as we're sitting here and we're watching the waves, and we would call it volatility at that time. You go from $200 to 17,000 to 3,500 now to 109,000,
and we're going higher. But
I love that. So that's where we were. We're right now probably, I think today 104, 103 back and forth, something like that, maybe a little higher. Where are we going? Where are we currently right now on this scale, on this spectrum? Yes, and let's just start there. Where are we now? Like, what's going? There's a lot of moving parts. If we're talking politically, there's just a lot of political movements, and I don't want to talk too much about politics, but maybe when we talk about regulations, I think it's just good to kind of touch on that piece that regulation matters with crypto. I think there was an IPO recently for Circle, just IPO'd, and they're, from my understanding, a stable coin and has to do with USDC. So they're now public, and that's.
So that Circle product is also, Coinbase is also a co-founder in that Circle product as well. So Coinbase is all over that. Yeah, it's really interesting. So as I mentioned earlier, my thesis, along with Walter, was if there's a central bank and the central bank continues to print, then Bitcoin becomes valuable. I just in my lifetime, our lifetime, I've been able to witness the birth of a new asset class, or asset and now asset class, right? Like that alone is incredible. So geopolitically speaking, we're already in World War III. A lot of people are going to dispute when it first started. We don't know when it really, like, I don't know when it officially started, but we're several years in. And that's becoming concerning. And the central banks are most likely going to be lowering interest rates so that we can finance this war. Because now, as of yesterday, it looks like the U.S. got involved.
This is yesterday, but there is that leaked footage of Tucker Carlson and what's the gentleman that he was talking to?
Which one?
Um,
Ted Cruz?
Ted Cruz. There you go. Yes, just recently, and Tucker Carlson was basically saying that in a conversation, and he was just like, you're saying we, and when it comes to
yeah.
And he's just like, well, no, I'm not. He's like, wait, hold up. Let's go. But you just said, and then that clip went viral because, the
caught him in a Freudian slip. I don't know.
Is it? Well, they came out and said that we have nothing to do with it, and essentially now we do. Now we do.
It's really interesting because the way I'm looking at this is essentially it's BRICS versus NATO, and it's been going on for some time. Just follow the price of gold. Gold, very telling. Gold, I think in 2022, during COVID, I mean, I was always eyeing gold. It's at like 1,700, trading just above 1,700, and right now it's basically doubled. It's like 3,500. Mm-hmm. That's 1 ounce of gold. Mm-hmm. And it's continuing to move further. The same with Bitcoin. You're seeing Bitcoin, the value, becoming even more valuable. And you're also seeing Trump push on a lower interest rate from the Fed. Excuse me. So all of these are like telltale signs of what's to come. So I am a firm believer in us moving into this technologification of society. And the demarcation happened at COVID 2020, right? That was when we went from like traditional reality to now like the technologification of society. And it's been really incredible to watch because I remember just like I would share with people Zoom. When I used to do like my crypto classes with people, it would always be on Zoom, right? And that was what, 2017, 2016. Zoom becomes popular during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everyone went to Zoom, and that market was so
it's like, pew!
Overnight.
Yeah.
It's so oversaturated. There was overnight fitness trainers, overnight yogis. Everyone was on Zoom doing some kind of online something, and Zoom was the go-to.
Zoom was
the go-to.
It was the facilitator, right?
Even working from home, you were Zooming. I was Zoom meeting you. Yeah, it was Zoom.
Exactly. Yep. So like some of my friends were getting back to me, and they were calling me, what was it that they would call me? The Prophet, right? They're like, how'd you know, Mike? Because nobody used Zoom back then. How'd you know? And it's just, Walter was also a big proponent on, all right, in this day and age, if you got a laptop, which is now proliferating, just about everybody has a laptop or a phone, why do you need an office? So he would always encourage me, Mike, don't get an office. Never buy an office space. What happens? COVID, boom. Nobody's going into the offices anymore.
Right.
So we're also seeing probably one of the largest catalysts to this financial market meltdown, which is the office space bust.
Commercial real estate.
Oh my gosh, it's taking place right now.
Oh yeah, and
Huge.
I read something that Grant Cardone was speaking on the numbers that essentially there's a certain amount of loans in the commercial space that are set to essentially default, if I'm not mistaken, because a lot of people are having these long contracts. There's no one in house, and they're just sitting on these large commercial buildings, and no one's in them. They're
No
just
one's
empty.
in them.
So,
Right?
so what happens, and especially when those loans are due and mature, boy,
Think about the businesses that are affected by no one coming into those office spaces as well.
you're bleeding out.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your restaurant that you depend on like the lunch traffic, the after hours traffic, right? Your
Exactly.
happy hours.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're all being affected. So what I've been saying in a long time is that this is not a recession. This is a depression. It's probably the greatest depression in human recorded history that we're watching, right? You can't just shut down an economy for several years and then try to start it back up on a global scale. It just doesn't work like that. So because of this, we're seeing alternative assets, and there's more that I could jump into, but you're seeing alternative assets secure more value. People are trusting their gold and their physical silver much more. And physical silver, I think, is completely undervalued. It's probably as valuable as you are, right? Because moving forward in this technology rollout, silver is one of the best conductors of electricity, and then it's also a precious metal. So it's going to be in just about all the technology, most, if not all, the technology that's going to be rolling out, and it's only a one-time use case, right? So when it's done, there's no like replenishing it yet. I don't think we've found out how to do that yet. So gold, silver, Bitcoin, real estate, there's a massive real estate bubble right now, but owning these things, I think, is going to be important moving forward. Yeah, and then you were asking as well, just where I see the value. Just keep in mind that I believe the institutional crypto companies have poured a lot into this administration. So that's going to be interesting as well. We saw Trump go live with the Trump meme coin on Solana.
Yes.
We are seeing the first AI and basically crypto czar, right? You're also looking at a digital asset reserve and a Bitcoin reserve. MicroStrategy is selling shares to buy more Bitcoin, right? So, that, though because we're in the know, we think it's popular, it's not as popular yet. So those are the opportunities that you typically want to attach yourself to, right? You don't want to be there when everyone's there. You want to get there before everyone gets there, so you can take advantage of the windfall that comes with it. Right. And that's what I'm looking at, right? As a trend forecaster, I'm always identifying what's next based on, what I'm seeing taking place. And those, I think, are going to, gold, silver, Bitcoin, going to do well.
Gold, silver, Bitcoin, and what is it? Gold, silver, Bitcoin.
Your real estate will do well too if you can hold on to it. Don't spread yourself thin, because I'm seeing a lot of people buying real estate right now. But I don't know if now is the time. It's probably after whatever catastrophe is about to take place. It's already started.
Yeah, and I think it's a very interesting time. And do we know what's going to happen? No, but I do believe in patterns, and I believe looking at history as kind of a rhyme. It doesn't necessarily. So what is it? The history doesn't necessarily. It's not. What's the quote? It's
sometimes rhymes or repeats.
History doesn't repeat, but they often rhyme.
Yes,
there it is. Yeah. So with history and these bubbles, it's not the first depression, really, and it may be bad, but I also see technology and cryptocurrency, where we are huge leaps and bounds forward than what we've used to be, and those implications are coming with different effects than, say, maybe our previous generations.
Sure.
Mental health, suicide rate for young men. There's a lot of factors that are going into like us being more connected than ever, and then also being more alone than ever.
Sure, more distracted than ever. Your cell phone, the TV. So I remember when I was growing up as a kid in Jamaica, I still maintain those friendships because we had one TV, and that TV only had one channel. It was mostly dedicated to the adults, but as soon as 12 a.m. midnight hit, it was the national anthem and then a rainbow channel, like rainbow on screen, until 6 a.m., where it was once again like adult programming, like news, and the kids might get like maybe 30 minutes or an hour of cartoons before they go to school. But when you came back from school, we played outside, right? And that was normal. That was my normal day. We'd be playing outside, and we'll have one kid on lookout at like the closest house with a TV. And as soon as cartoons came on, you hear, cartoons! And all the kids would run to the house. We watched cartoon for an hour, and then it was back outside playing, right? Because then it would be adult programming. But like now that I'm in the States, and I love the opportunities here, I just see more television watching. The programming is 24/7. It's just a lot more distraction, and it's becoming costly if you really look at the consequences.
Right? Of what exactly is value, and when I think of value, I think it goes into it's now attention. Your attention is probably a high commodity. For institutions and for,
that's crazy that you even bring that up, because a guy that I really appreciate as far as like research is Cliff High. Sometimes, he's a bit off the wall, but I love the way he communicates and sees a lot of things. But one of the things that he brought up was the highest market. Like, what's the largest market on Earth? And I was like stumped. But then he reveals it's the human attention market. Largest market on Earth, right? So you're seeing this constant vie for your attention, whether that's like Instagram or these apps, TV. I'm hearing people binge watching. I don't even have time anymore. I'm wondering how people are actually making the time to watch a lot of TV. I'm trying to figure it out. Back when I was younger, I was able to watch a lot of TV. I used to watch all the NBA games and all that stuff. But now it's NBA, MLB, NFL. It's like all
on one
soccer.
screen. You could even put multiple screens at once.
You can even do that, right? Like it's very little time for yourself to actually self-reflect and like dive into like your purpose or become more successful, right? So, yeah, I think what we're seeing is something that's only going to scale out much larger. Attention is definitely a commodity, and you got to know how to guard your attention.
Absolutely. I feel like that's going to be a perfect conversation piece, and I have so many questions about like AI and stuff like that. We'll have to save that for another episode. We'll save it for another episode. This one we'll keep around crypto, but the AI one, I feel like that's kind of where it's going. But again, artificial intelligence and all that stuff. That would make a really cool episode as well, man.
Oh, sure, definitely. You know, happy to share what we're working on the AI side.
Oh, dude,
because it's so new. It's kind of like Bitcoin as well. I haven't been this excited about a sector since Bitcoin, a sector in technology since Bitcoin.
I love that.
Decentralized AI is what we're building out now.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's so new. It like spins heads. Like when I'm at like traditional AI conferences and I ask them, "What do you know about decentralized AI?" They look at me like I'm crazy. Mm-hmm. It's that new.
I believe that. We're gonna unpack that. We're gonna have to get together and do another one of these and just have a sit down, a powwow, and kind of unpack that for all of our listeners and all the awesome people who tuned in. You know, what kind of advice could you give them to leave them off with? I know you said gold, silver, Bitcoin, purchasing these assets, again, not financial advice, but would be favorable. Do you see these being profitable in 5 to 10 years?
So I think what you've mentioned, all of them, those verticals, are extremely undervalued, right? And for me, I love history. The further back I can look, the deeper I can see into the future. And when I looked at Weimar Republic, Germany, what gold and silver were able to do for the people, and what we said earlier, history doesn't often repeat, but rhymes, and we're seeing something similar. I also reviewed, I believe at the time it was like the French Revolution and the assignats, and gold and silver once again dominated. So, it's a healthy bet to have this diversification, at least, of gold and silver, and some crypto or Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. I love gold. I love silver. I see opportunities there that are long lasting.
So right? It's not too late to get in there.
Generational.
Okay, it's not too late. People aren't outpriced even at 103,000.
No, you're just getting started, because I see Bitcoin probably one day at 1 million.
Wow.
Right? Gold, possibly, 10K an ounce. But when?
Right.
We'll see, right? Let's just say right now it's 3,500.
Right.
So these are all interesting for me, right? That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm interested in. But like advice that I would give the people is, I'll share a little bit of what Walter would tell me, which is to hone your intellectual curiosity. Read and learn something new daily. If you do that, you outpace your compeers. Yeah, significantly. No one's reading anymore. Well, I can't say no one. That's a generalization.
Well,
a lot of people are not.
It's on the decline.
Speaking of AI, so AI's IQ recently is 120 or was 120. I don't know what it is right now, but the average person around the world is 90. Right? So, yeah, just hone your intellectual curiosity. Be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself, and learn new things. Like it's like a Dr. Seuss poem, right? The more you learn, the more you know. The more you know, the more you grow. The more places you can go.
I love that. I love that.
Right?
I absolutely love that. And I agree with you. And a man who's traveled the world multiple times and continues to travel and leaving your legacy. I mean, you've traveled here to New York, and you've blessed myself and so many people here, just with your presence and with these conversations.
Thank you very much.
No, dude.
This is fantastic, right?
Thank you.
I like what you all are doing, and
thank you.
Making this like layman's and available to the public, because now is the time for them to know. There's so many opportunities available to them, right? You just got to step away from the distractions to start analyzing and doing deeper dives into those, because once again, like I said earlier, Bitcoin's only 16 years old, so it's within your lifetime. That's the opportunity.
So if anybody's listening, if you're alive, the time is now. If you're listening, the time is now. And I don't think there's a better time than right now. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Running Bear.